Hard Rock Empire is on the air. We are back on a snowy Sunday evening here at the studios. Great to have you along with us. I am Matt, as always, back with you with another week of podcasting excellence. And for those of you who might not be able to get anywhere right now because of all the snow we got in the Ohio Valley, we've got some great music for you, as always, this week to give you something to listen to while you're stuck inside because of the snow. But it's the music of January the 16th this week on the Hard Rock Empire. Of course, we'll be taking you into the vault as well at the end of the program. But overall, the music's starting to pick up in volume as well as we are rolling into 2026. Joining me in studio, as always, is Mike. Mike, how's it going?
It's going. Yeah, we could actually cover an individual week. We didn't have to lump multiple weeks together to actually scrounge up enough music to talk about. But it was a good week music-wise. I was kind of preoccupied because obviously we work a week behind, and this week in real time, the new Megadeth album came out.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll talk about next week, but you know that I've given that one a few listens already, so that might have distracted me a bit as far as the music from the 16th goes, but still good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. We will definitely be spending a good segment of next week's show talking about that. Because it is out in all 78 different versions that you can buy everywhere. We may be selling one on our website. I don't know. You might want to go check it out. I have no idea. But it is literally everywhere, and there's a million different ways you can get a hold of it. But I definitely encourage you to get a hold of it. We'll talk more about that next week, so we don't want to spoil too much of that this week. Shout out to Chris joining us in the chat. Mentioning it looks like a Sonata Arctica album outside. That is not a lie. It is pretty miserable here. We've got approaching a foot of snow here. Areas not too far from here, over a foot of snow. 30 centimeters if you are not in the U.S. and do not use feet. Although I found an interesting forum post on Reddit, and Reddit's always an interesting place. So it was in a forum called Ask a Canadian. And the question was brought up, well, what do you use in Canada for snow measurement?
Yeah.
And turns out that, for all the grief the U.S. gets about their units, Canadians are pretty confused on that as well. There were some that said they use feet and inches because whether they're just close to the U.S. Some of them use centimeters up to a foot, and then it's 1 feet, 2 feet beyond there. They don't use meters, evidently. So,
I mean, maybe they get snow by the meter full, and they could do that even if they don't, but we don't. We kind of need that third length essentially to describe snowfall. Not that we get a foot of snow all that often, but inches and feet just they fit what you're measuring easier.
Yeah, so they mentioned like a lot of them will go up to 30 centimeters because that is basically the length of a ruler that they have that has feet on there, and once you get above that, then it's feet basically. So you've gone beyond that. So interesting. I had no idea that there was so much confusion on that front, even in Canada. But
how do they describe the size of hail? Similar?
Maybe. Like I think once you get the hockey puck size. Of course, that's the other thing is in the U.S. If you get a warning, you look at like quarter-inch hail, half-inch hail. But generally, it's like pea-size hail and marble-size hail and baseball-size hail. So, even here in the U.S., it's kind of the old joke, like the U.S. will use anything to measure things. It's not the metric system.
The desk of Cheez-Its.
Right. So I just thought that was a really interesting post. And obviously, if you are in North America, there's a good chance you're dealing with some sort of winter weather. Shout out to those down south who are dealing with just copious amounts of ice.
Yeah, how you liking that?
That's really terrible. There's nothing worse than ice. I saw the Nashville area in particular have been hit hard. And the problem is there's like below zero weather coming in right behind it. We're not supposed to get out of the single digits tomorrow with low temperatures in Fahrenheit, well below zero all week. So this stuff's not going anywhere. and that's really bad if you've got ice. So hopefully everybody's got all the groceries they need. And if you got the elderly neighbors, probably a good time to check in on them. Make sure they've got everything they need during this really big winter storm that's, I think, now hitting the East Coast. So really crazy stuff. But you're going to need something to do while you're stuck inside for a few days. So
let's move on to sports. What do we got there?
We've got some music for you.
Weather report done
as well. And we've got our ad break in process right now on our progress, I should say, on Twitch. So we'll let the ad break roll through before we roll on to the new music for this week. But again, like Mike said in the open, we had more to choose from this week with the music. It's the previous 2 weeks we had to lump together because there just weren't that many releases, which is pretty typical. And we had to do that as well at the end of 2025. And of course, you can go back to YouTube and check out the VOD of both of those episodes. They are up on YouTube. They're still up on Twitch as well. They don't stay up as long on Twitch. YouTube, they're there unless they ever get removed by YouTube. So you can check those out at any point. But yeah, I think this week, there was enough stuff on there that we could just do the 1 week, which was January the 16th. And overall, I thought for still kind of a limited release schedule, there was a little bit more in the way of good stuff this week. So in just a few seconds, we'll dive into that as we get to our Twitch viewers back from ads. Welcome back to our folks on Twitch. Again, we do have ads. We run them a couple of times during the episode. Obviously, if you're subscribed, which you can do with Prime for free every month, you won't get ads. Otherwise, just hang around. We won't do anything of any consequence during the ad break, so you're not going to miss any of our content. But it is time to kind of get to the new stuff this week. Before we do that, I just want to remind you to join our Discord. I've mentioned we're working on some new stuff coming soon, so you're going to want to know when that's coming up. So if you join our Discord, you'll get notifications on that. So that's kind of the place where, we'll put stuff on social media as well. But if you're on the Discord, you're probably going to know about it probably before anybody else. So join there. We're looking to build a community, so we would really appreciate it if you swing on by there. Now, having said all that, it's about time to get to the new music for this week. Of course, the week is January the 16th. Mike will go through and pull new releases for the week. He'll put them into a YouTube playlist. That playlist is currently being pasted in both of the chats. Once that is all said and done, I think we might have had a new sub pop in there.
That was probably mine.
Oh, okay. That was Mike. Mike is new subbed again. It is that time
5
for
months
us.
in a row. Let's keep it going.
Keeping the streak going. Very cool, though. But Mike goes through and puts together a YouTube playlist. And again, we always encourage you to check out the playlist. Obviously, we're going to give you a couple of albums you need to check out. But there's a lot of stuff on there, and there's a good variety. So make sure you go in and listen to that playlist every week. And if there's something in there you like, you can pull up the full album. And if you like it beyond that, check out the band. Try to purchase the album, see them on tour, all that good stuff to support these bands who make this awesome music. Before we get to the stuff we're going to pick, Mike and I each will choose one new album to spotlight. We like to go through if there's anything else that's noteworthy, and I think there were a few things this week that might be noteworthy that maybe weren't picked by us. So, Mike, let me turn it over to you to kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I got a couple major releases as well as a couple fun names that we won't be highlighting beyond just calling out their names, but you should probably check them out as well. As far as the major releases go, we have a live album out there from the Death Cult, which is essentially the Cult touring under their original name, Death Cult, which is actually a take on Ian Astbury's original band before the Cult, the Southern Death Cult, if you can keep up with all of that. They basically toured last year, doing a lot of the earlier work, Death Cult, as well as the first couple Cult albums. If you're a fan of the Cult and like their early work, definitely worth checking out. Secondly, we have the 16th studio album from the legendary German thrash band Creator, Crushers of the World. These guys are a member of the Teutonic Big Four, or the Big Four of German thrash metal, along with Tankard, Sodom, and Destruction. We got a new release from another Big Four member next week, so give these guys a listen to kind of get you ready for that.
I thought the track on the playlist was really good. I thought it really sounded good, so those guys are still...
It's a band I haven't visited enough that I definitely need to. Probably among the other Big Four German bands as well. But I was impressed with that.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on the playlist this week. I definitely encourage you to check it out beyond the stuff that we picked.
And as far as the best names, one of them, which actually turned out to be a pretty good album as well, the album is Same Drug New High from the band Glucifer.
Yes.
Definitely check that one out. And we also have a re-release from the band Godzillionaire, Negative Balance. great names. Always a fan of great names, great artwork, and these guys nailed it this week.
Yeah, Glucifer, that track I really liked. That was definitely one that was on the radar to potentially pick that one.
You never know what to expect with a band called Glucifer.
Yeah, that really could go a lot of different directions, but I feel like those guys have been around a while, just not maybe a band.
They had been.
Band that I was real familiar with. So, again, a lot of cool stuff on there. Even some of the stuff that maybe Mike and I, it isn't up our alley necessarily, but there was a good selection to choose from this week. So, again, check out the playlist. I think you're going to find something you like on there for sure. But there can only be two. So
it's like Highlander, only not.
This is some new version of Highlander. I guess there can only be one for each of us. But we're going to spotlight one album each that you should check out. And Mike, as always, will kick things off. So what do you have for us this week?
Oh, this week we have a Greek power metal band. These guys releasing their second album. First one came out in 2021. They are Valiant Sentinel, and the album is called Never Realm.
Yeah, this was an album that I got to listen to all the way through, and I really dug this one as well as the one I ended up picking. But overall, this was just really solid front to back.
Yeah, definitely some classic power metal sounds with these guys. This band started back in 2021. It's a side project originally of Dimitris Skrotis, the guitarist. First album had guest appearances from the likes of Tim Ripper Owens and Fabio Leone, so clearly that's already setting you on a good path. Fast forward to now, the current album featured Panos Monakas on bass, Viandok on vocals, and Frederick Imke on drums, who is the drummer from Blind Guardian.
Oh, okay.
I've not heard the first album, but the second effort definitely delivers on what the Bandcamp describes their sound as being, which is a call to arms for those who crave epic storytelling, relentless energy, and the symphonic power of metal at its most inspired. The reviewer on ForgottenScroll.net, which is a great name of a website as well, threw out some names that came to their mind, which I was thinking as well as I was listening to this, as far as bands whose sound probably influence these guys. You'll hear some Blind Guardian. I think also Demons and Wizards and Iced Earth as well. These guys, to me, vocally maybe aren't Iced Earth, Demons and Wizards, but definitely like the riffs. You can kind of hear that almost John Schaefer-ish riff-age every now and then. Not surprising you kind of get those when you also have Blind Guardian's drummer behind the kit for this album. The reviewer on that website also calls this album EU power metal, but done justice, as he feels that the power metal genre in Europe has kind of been popified over the last few years, which when you think of some of your favorite power metal bands over the past like 15, 20 years, a lot of them kind of have shifted a bit more toward a more accessible, pop-oriented sound. So I kind of see where he's coming from. These guys are definitely that old-school power metal for sure. Intense, epic, makes you want to go to war in a medieval kind of way. Standout tracks on the album include War in Heaven, Mirkwood Forest, The Underdark, Elden Lord, The Battle of Hornburg, and the track that I picked to listen to, Arch Nemesis.
Check these guys out, Valiant Sentinel, with their new album, Never Realm. This is the 8th track off of this album, Arch Nemesis. Let's listen to a little bit of that now.
I bleed, I scream like an animal on the attack. My arch nemesis, you're the ultimate rival. Within the raging storm I wake, surrounded by eternal guardians. With the quakes I make the ground shake. I unleash whirlwinds and destroy you all.
Yeah, I really dug that. I think a lot of the descriptions and comparisons you made are very apt there. Really like the harmonies. They worked really well in the chorus, and then you have the guitar kind of come in afterward to set up that guitar solo. The drums, obviously, in the background, but it kind of carries the beat along in a very much like medieval type rhythm there. There's nothing to say bad about this album. I thought it was really excellent, and if you're a fan of that kind of traditional power metal, I think this might be something that you're looking for. If maybe, like Mike said, some of your favorite bands have gone a little more mainstream with their sound over the last 15 years or so.
Yeah, these guys definitely didn't forget the metal part of power metal. Like, it is definitely metal and worth a listen.
Yeah, definitely worth checking those guys out. Really dug that myself as well. Valiant Sentinel, their new album out on January the 16th. I have one pick as well. We are headed to Italy, one of our favorite places on this podcast. We are checking out the traditional heavy metal band from Italy. This is Hyperion with Cybergenesis. These guys were founded in 2015. Should be noted that there's many bands with that name. This band, you're going to want to find the one from Italy. Specifically, this is their fourth studio album, although one of the reviews said it was their third, but their website clearly has 4 albums on it. The band, as it stands now, is made up of David Cotti on guitars, Francesco Madonna on drums, Max Morelli on vocals, Simone Nega Cowley on bass, and Francis Di Pasquale on guitars. They were originally founded by drummer Jason Begelli and guitarist David Cotti to play traditional heavy metal, inspired by Metal Church, Queensryche, Judas Priest. They had some lineup changes after their most recent album. Cotti stayed on, has brought in pretty much by and large a new band, and they really have done a great job here. The one thing I like about this album is, even though you do have some longer songs on this album, none of the songs drag on. It is really just... It goes through the album really quickly. Sometimes you see 6 and 7 minute songs. They don't quite get to 7 minutes, but some of those can kind of drag. But honestly, these songs fly by, and in large part because of that new wave of traditional heavy metal style. They're looking to be embraced by that community in Europe. And honestly, if they keep releasing albums like this, it's really only a matter of time before that community kind of embraces these guys. They've done that sound in a very traditional way, but in a modern way as well. It makes for a really great album. Standout tracks include Deafening, Yet We Still Fight, Blood Over Chrome, and Rewire, Rebuild, which is the track we're going to listen to on the podcast. This is Hyperion with Cybergenesis, and the second track off of that album is Rewire, Rebuild. Let's listen to a little bit of that now.
Slave of the alien, drown in its power. Live forever, fast of your breath. Reason from metal and fire. Cybergenesis, man or machine. Reprogram, rewire, rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, that clip there obviously to me has a very Judas Priest type sound to it, but overall, if you're a fan of the new wave of traditional heavy metal, I think these guys are going to be right up your alley, so I definitely encourage you check these guys out. Mike, your thoughts on this one?
I'm always amazed when we run into that next traditional heavy metal band, just how many of them there are out there doing it. I say it every week, I think. It bothers me that this stuff isn't more out there being promoted, because it's great metal. You can't have enough of it, and these guys are definitely doing a good thing.
Yeah, and like I said, they've made some lineup changes. They've got a great sound. Vocals are great. I'm happy to see it out there, and these guys I think are out there touring or maybe getting ready to tour. So definitely worth checking these guys out if you're out in Europe. So Hyperion, really good stuff. Their new album out on January the 16th. That's gonna take care of our new music. We're gonna jump aside for about a minute and a half on Twitch to go to one more ad break. If you're there, don't worry, just hang on. You're not gonna miss any content during that hour and a half. That would be a lot. During that minute and a half, we'll take a quick ad break. Again, if you're subscribed, you won't get ads. If you're on YouTube, you won't get ads. But we'll be back in about 90 seconds. And once we get those ads done, we're gonna go into the vault and talk about a couple of classic albums that you need to check out this week. As we get that ad break running right now on Twitch, it is now rolling. And again, just kind of a quick look at this week. Really good stuff. I thought there was some good variety this week. And I was wondering, just because this was the first week we've been able to get back to just the 1 week for the podcast. But overall, there were some good tracks and even some stuff that, like I said, we didn't necessarily spotlight that I think people will find enjoyable depending on their metal type, metal preferences, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think great time for a band like Creator to throw out their newest, because as far as mainstream acts, there wasn't a whole lot of competition out there for them. Not to suggest that some of the bands, including the bands we're promoting, aren't right there with them, but as far as notoriety goes, when you're looking at new releases, that's going to stick out.
I'm a little surprised we don't see a little more of that during this time of year, because it can be such slim pickings that if you take a week, and obviously we're going to see it next week with Megadeth's new album, you can really have the week kind of to yourself as far as, like you said, the mainstream acts. And if you're releasing an album alongside these mainstream acts, that can be a great opportunity too to, hey, your new album showing up, pick them both up that way.
Try to piggyback off of that.
You know, why not? So definitely encourage you to check out the playlist. Definitely encourage you to check out some of the other releases. And again, as we always talk about, if you like something, you know, and you get a chance to stream it and really like what you hear, most of these bands either have a Bandcamp, or obviously the big bands, you can get their albums almost anywhere. Definitely encourage you to pick up a physical copy if you can, and support these bands. So hopefully they'll keep making all this awesome music we get to talk about each and every week. And this is the 101st week that we have talked about new music. It's out there. You just got to find it. So, but before, obviously we've talked about the new music this week, it's time to get into the vault, where Mike and I will each bring up a classic album that you need to check out. And Mike is ending, at least for now, a vault gimmick that has taken him all over the place over the past few weeks. Mike decided about how many weeks ago it's been now, but he was going to use a random country generator to choose a country and then try to find a metal band that he could spotlight. We've had a lot of success, have found some really cool bands, some interesting places. We've had some failures where there were countries that we just didn't find any acts. But we're going to wrap that up for now. And of course, next week we'll get back to spotlighting bands that are going to be at Sonic Temple. But where are we headed for this final week of the trip around the world in the vault?
Yeah, so this journey that began on the episode where we were talking about August 15th, 2025 music, so probably that first week of September maybe.
Yeah.
Right at the end of August. Started in Namibia. Which is funny, it makes me think, like, as a kid watching Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, like, I would just hope that they wouldn't end up having to, like, do the final round in Africa, because I knew so few countries in Africa. It's like, oh, man, I don't have to try to figure out what those are, because, you know, you play along, but this took me to a lot of places in Africa.
You did.
I've been to Namibia, let's see, Uganda, you know, where else do we have? All sorts of ridiculous
Ivory
places.
Coast.
Yeah, places that obviously had no metal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we are rounding out the trip in Egypt, though. That is our final destination for the time being. When I pulled that up on the random country generator, I noticed on the Metal Archives website that there were 62 bands listed, so I figured, got to find something with that many. We should be good.
Yeah.
Of which 46 of those bands were active. Normally, I kind of do like a keyword search for a genre, but in this case, with only 46 remaining of that 62 originally, I could kind of see everything in front of me on my spreadsheet, so I didn't really feel the need to filter down any further than that. A couple things stuck out at me pretty early on, and it was a couple bands had their names in Arabic, which, based on the themes of their music, both of them were something to the effect of Middle Eastern folklore or Arabic folklore. I thought would have been really cool, but ultimately the language gap was not going to make that benefit all that worthwhile to me. It still probably really cool. Another band who were labeled as symphonic death metal / Middle Eastern folk metal was a band called Odious. Musically, I thought they were pretty amazing, but I just couldn't get around the death metal vocals the whole time. Like, I was hoping there might be some clean thrown in, but about halfway through the first track, I was like, as much as this music is really cool, it's not doing it for me, unfortunately. So if you're into symphonic death, give Odious a listen, because musically they were really cool, just not my style necessarily. Then I saw a band out of Cairo listed as a gothic progressive metal band. I checked out their debut full-length album. Started with a 2.5-minute intro, and then the song after that started with what sounded almost like a chiptune keyboard. I was like, okay, now you have my attention. Let's hear this. Had me intrigued for sure. So for today's Vault, we have the 2025 debut full-length studio album from the band Anemoya. The album is titled Reflections. According to Metal Archives, this band started in 2024. They consist of Mustafa Nazir on bass, Yassine Bagat on drums, Kareem El Sarabasi on guitars, Khaled Al Nahas on guitars, and Akram Solomon on vocals. The band started out as a solo project from Akram Solomon. Khaled came up with the name Anemoya, which refers to nostalgia for a time never experienced. Definitely a kind of name that you would have for a progressive metal band, I think. Their Bandcamp describes them as a heavy metal band based in Cairo, fusing gothic vibes and progressive elements for fans of Lacuna Coil, Opeth, and Catatonia. Definitely hear the Catatonia in this band. They have this sense of, for the lack of a better way to describe it, downtrodden melancholy, especially with the vocals. Very Catatonia-ish. I would say it's less atmospheric than Catatonia and more gothic metal. That being said, if it were up to me, I would want even more metal in their sound, but that's just a preference. The sound that they're actually creating, it's different, and it certainly works. And it's kind of wild, because I wasn't really expecting gothic, Catatonia-like metal out of Egypt, necessarily. So you never know what kind of music's being made in any of these countries. The album has 10 songs, it's 50 minutes long. Definitely worth giving a listen to. Standout tracks include Pathological Liar, Cold Feet, Reflections, The Orientalist, Echo Chambers, and Polarized. But yeah, not a bad finale for the trip around the world.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Maybe that'll be a topic or a style of vault that I choose in the future, and I could go, some sort of melodic metal of some kind and try to find bands across the world that do the frontier type music, basically, for lack of a better way of describing it. But no, this has really been interesting, and it's always cool to experience new countries, experience kind of what music sounds like there, because the truth is metal is almost everywhere. We did find a few places it wasn't, but it's in a lot of places you wouldn't think. So if you are a fan of metal, there's a good chance somebody in your country's doing it, and that's pretty cool, honestly. So definitely worth going back, and I encourage you to go back and check out the episodes that Mike has covered. Mike mentioned it probably started beginning of September and it's carried over here now to the end of January. So go through and check out those episodes of The Vault. And like I said, a lot of really interesting music and a lot of interesting places out there. I am continuing through the Frontiers bands. We are getting to the end, though. We are on the second week for the letter W. We don't have much left, obviously. So and there weren't as many choices for W, obviously, as some of these other letters, and they're going to be even less as we go forward. So I wanted to check out a band that I've certainly heard of. I've heard some of their work, but I honestly maybe didn't know a lot about them. So I thought it was an interesting time to jump into the band Wig Wam, and they jumped into Frontiers Records full-time about halfway through their catalog, and this is the fifth studio album from the Norwegian glam metal band, released in 2021. It is Never Say Die. I picked this one because it was the band's first album in 9 years, and it was their first album after the band had split up in 2014. They reunited in 2019. What was interesting, and I didn't know this because, to be honest, I do a very bad job of keeping up with popular TV shows, so this would have certainly flown under my radar, but their track Do You Want to Taste It from the Nonstop Rock and Roll album was used as a theme song for the HBO Max television series Peacemaker. Did not know that. Because of that, the band experienced a surge in popularity, which kind of led to this comeback, and they were able to appear at festivals in Norway and Europe once the COVID restrictions were lifted in 2022. The band is made up of guys with a bunch of pseudonyms. We have Glam, Age Sten Nielsen on lead vocals and backing vocals, Teeny, Trond Holter on guitars, keyboards, backing vocals, production, programming, mixing, and mastering, Flash, who is Bernt Janssen, on bass backing vocals and lead vocals, and Sporty, which is Austin Grieker Anderson on
one of the
drums.
Spice Girls?
I believe so, yes. Overall, if you like glam metal that's polished, I think you're going to really dig this. This definitely has a level of sophistication that maybe glam metal in the late 80s, early 90s didn't always have. It feels like an evolution maybe of what glam metal was at that time. This was, again, in 2021. They did release another album beyond this, which I definitely want to check out because these guys sound great, and it's awesome to hear them continue to roll on. In fact, 2025 was their 20th anniversary of the commercial release of their first album, which came out in 2005. And they've been doing like a 20th anniversary tour in Europe, which I think they called like 20 years of Wig Wam Mania. So definitely worth checking those guys out. Like I said, they sound great. I definitely want to check out the rest of their catalog, but very cool to see them continuing on. Standout tracks include Never Say Die, Hypnotize, Kilimanjaro, and Shadows of Eternity. Admittedly, this was a band I didn't know a ton about. Obviously, their name is a name you don't forget. But again, another glam band that's still out there and getting it done, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I first encountered these guys. I can't remember if it was on like Spotify or iHeartRadio or one of those, or if it was the old cable music choice channels. But it was a song from the album Wall Street from 2012, and I ended up buying that album, which is amazing for the record. A lot of really good tracks there. But yeah, just great, almost AOR glam to a degree. Like it's very pop friendly, very polished. A lot of songs that in another era would have been hits, I think, especially with that Wall Street album. I'm kind of curious how a band just ends up with the name Wig Wam. Like how do you arrive to that? And also, why, if you're Norwegian and you have really cool names to begin with, do you bother with pseudonyms?
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, I don't know if it was to make it more accessible to people who can't pronounce those names, like me, possibly.
Yeah.
Just catchy.
I still don't know how you pronounce the empty set as a letter.
No, I don't either, to be completely honest, and I apologize to Sporty if I got his first name incorrect, but I do my best with a lot of the names that we come across because we do choose a lot of bands from Europe, so we try to do our best. But yeah, definitely worth checking these guys out. They're still sounding great. I definitely like to go back and check the rest of their catalog now. Next 2 weeks, we're on the letter X. There are only 2 bands listed under the letter X, so this is going to be pretty easy. Those bands are X Drive and X Origin. Don't know anything about either one of those bands other than I think I can be able to find the albums in question, so we're going to be checking those out over the next 2 weeks on the Vault, so I encourage you to check that out, and we're getting down to the end of our run through Frontiers on the Vault, but that is going to wrap things up for this edition of the Hard Rock Empire. So glad you joined us once again on this snowy Sunday evening, at least where we are. We hope you're able to stay warm and stay safe if you have to go out, if you are in the path of the snowstorm. We'll be back with you again next week, next Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, for another episode of the Hard Rock Empire. Music of January the 23rd coming up next week. Definitely encourage you to check that out. And join our Discord. We've got new stuff coming down the pike here very shortly, so we encourage you to be there so you'll know when it's going to happen, so you can join us either on Twitch or on YouTube, or in some cases both. Make sure you are there for that. Big thanks to Chris for joining us. Big thanks to Mike, as always, for his hard work on this podcast. Big thanks to Stove Lake Media for their continued support of the podcast, and a big thanks to you for listening whenever and wherever you are listening. That's going to wrap things up. We'll talk to you again next Sunday night for another episode of the Hard Rock Empire. Until then, don't forget to join the Empire, the Hard Rock Empire.